Hello, everyone. Welcome back again to the Health Wealth Podcast. We got another action-packed episode coming up. I'm joined again by Barry, of course. How are you doing today, Barry?
Yeah, fantastic, Ryan. Great to be on again and looking forward to another really insightful discussion.
Awesome. And it's a family affair today. We've also got Barry's brother, older brother, I believe, more senior, I'll say, Akis, with us. A pleasure to meet you, Akis. How are you doing?
Nice to meet you too. Significantly older, significantly more senior. But maybe that means significantly wiser. Let's see.
Exactly. Let's look at the positives of it. And did I pronounce it properly as well? Your name is it Akis?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Good. I didn't want to get it wrong. So first of all, if you want to kind of just introduce yourself and give a bit of a background of yourself for us, and then we've got a lot of interesting topics that we're going to discuss.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll start a little bit further back and say that I've always been kind of obsessed with health and wellness and sport and fitness. We see earlier on when I was younger, I was very kind of into the physical side. As I kind of maybe hit my physical peak, or what is assumed to be a physical peak, I started to transition more to the cognitive side. Yeah. How do you work in your mind? How do you preserve what you have? You can't do that nose to the grindstone every day like you did in your 20s and 30s. So I started to uncover different biohacks, different strategies to maintain my physicality. So that, I suppose, is me in a nutshell. The paradox is that I've worked for the pharmaceutical industry for 20 years. So I work in high-cost drugs and medicines access. So I facilitate access to medicines for patients mainly with autoimmune and inflammatory disorders. In my opinion, probably 95% self-inflicted by patients. I'm sure we'll go on to that. And running in parallel with that, I've always been very interested in helping people regain their functionality to combat chronic disease, etc. So I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist and NLP master practitioner as well. So I've got quite some significant credentials in that space, and what I enjoy more to providing access to medicines to patients is helping people be able to understand how their inner workings of their mind can dictate their path to health or back to health.
Awesome. And give us a little bit of because I'm sure a lot of people might hear clinical hypnotherapist and have no idea what it actually means. So give us a little info on what that actually means and what you actually do.
Yeah, so hypnosis, a lot of people will view it as putting your subject to sleep, but I view it more as waking your subject up from the trance they're already in every day. Who's really driving the bus? You know, is it your conscious mind? Is it your subconscious mind? So hypnosis in a nutshell is a state. It's a state where you've bypassed the critical factor or the logical mind, the left side of the brain, which gives you access to essentially the subconscious, the imagination, the root of all your problems, and also where you're going to find the solutions to your problems without having to work through the alphabet from A to Z. Why do you have to do that? And you can go short circuit the whole thing and go directly from A to Z without having to work through all the alphabet. So that's hypnosis. It's not a binary thing. You're not in a waking state. You're not in hypnosis. It's a sliding scale. So if you imagine you go to a cinema, the curtain comes up in a faraway galaxy a long, long time ago. You begin to check out. You start to lose track of time. The people around you start to dissolve away, and you become absorbed. You become absorbed in the story, and you become absorbed in the metaphor. So that is essentially the state of hypnosis, and the art of hypnotherapy is having the skill and the wordsmithery to be able to induce that state in people.
Awesome. And is there a particular kind of area you use that in of issues that people come to you with, or is it just, you know, across the board, people come to you with any kind of issues and you can use it to help them?
Yeah, short answers across the board, but ultimately hypnosis will take everybody back to their default setting. So however you've been pulled away from your default setting, whether that's one of being centered, to be a piece of wellness, authenticity. Hypnosis helps you essentially press the reset button and default, snap back into shape. So it's almost like somebody comes with you and there's a spring being pulled. Yeah, there's a lot of tension in that spring. Hypnosis will allow me to let that person just let go of one side of the spring so they snap back into shape. And for some people, that means overcoming OCD. It could mean getting over the idea that they're depressed 24/7. Could be anxiety. It could be a phobia, an irrational fear. It could be a compulsion. It could be, for example, an addiction. And what hypnosis does is allows you to navigate your way out of that state and go back to your state of wellness, which is your default state. Very, very quickly, I may add.
Sounds very good. Sounds very good. And obviously on your credentials, I know it says that you're the creator of the Hypno Fasting method. So can you give us some information on what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So that Hypno Fasting method is a fusion of my fascination both with how the mind works and how we've all got so confused about food and what we're supposed to do with nutrition. And not just nutrition as the way we see it today, but the history of nutrition. You know, how did we get into this mess as a species? Yeah, of everyone being on the standard Western American diet. And what I aim to do with the Hypno Fasting method is to help people navigate back to a place where they can eat in accordance with their ancestral roots very, very quickly, without having to go and learn about nutrition and without having to study the science or go and look up the clinical papers. Essentially, I'm taking somebody to this place by telling them stories, because how do we all learn? We all learn with metaphors, we all learn with stories. So that's the way my whole program is built. And what enables that person to do is then kind of exit my program and be completely self-sufficient lifelong without any further intervention from me or from anyone else. And I also aim to inoculate them against the barrage of marketing that we're being bombarded with 24/7 from every single channel.
That sounds like a very powerful way to do it, because with what you mentioned at the end there about the marketing, that is the majority of the problem, is that people are just bombarded daily with this propaganda around food and nutrition. And even when you tell them, you know, how to properly eat and, you know, you try and show them what it's done for other people, they still can't escape that propaganda in the back of their mind. Even I found myself, as I was gradually getting deeper into it and finding more and more, you saying, surely this can't be right, but then you're like, okay, it is. But then still in the back of your mind, you're still kind of questioning some stuff. So if you can literally, you know, with your Hypno Fasting method, kind of remove all that immediately, then that's hugely powerful to help people.
Yeah, it's really all about, the best way to explain it is you would go to, let's say, a personal trainer and a nutritionist. They would tell you what to do, yeah, which is the outside-in way of coaching, yeah. That's the behaviours part, yeah. But there's several layers above that tap in more to the unconscious. You've got your environment where you hang out. You've got your skills and capabilities. What are you good at? What are you competent at? You've got your beliefs and values. What do you hold dear to yourself? What do you believe to be true? And then you've got your identity at the top of the pyramid. And your identity is your vision of yourself. Now, everything underneath identity, going down to behaviours, which is ultimately the bit that we're trying to shift, all aligns to your identity, which is your vision of yourself. How do you see yourself? You will behave in accordance with your vision of yourself. So I could spend weeks and weeks and weeks teaching somebody all the right behaviours, but if I don't work in their identity and I don't work in their beliefs and values, are those new behaviours going to align? They're not going to align.
No.
So you come up with resistance, you come up with reactance. It's incongruent with how they view themselves. And ultimately, they need a shitload of willpower to continue implementing those behaviours on a daily basis if it isn't congruent with their view of themselves and what they hold to be true. So the behaviour bits comes later. The first part of my course is challenging that person's identity and challenging what they hold to be true. I can't install new information over old. I have to run the antivirus software, and I have to deinstall all the crap that's occupying their head before I install the new stuff. So phase 1 is uninstall all the crap. Phase 2 is install and embed at a hard disk level the new information, and stage 3 is implement and embed.
That's amazing. No, I love that. That is amazing, because that's essentially what we're trying to do too, but your method of doing it is probably a lot faster and a lot more effective with how you do it. So that's awesome to have that. I imagine you've seen some pretty amazing results with people using that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole premise is Hypno Fasting method. So if we take the middle part of fasting, many people, the majority of people that have any issues in life, let's take, for example, physical issues, etc., health issues, they believe the solution is additive. They think they need to put something into the system to then fix it. But for the vast majority of people, the solution is subtractive, not additive. You take things away and then the system will operate perfectly. And it's a complete shift in the way people's minds work, because they think, I'm lacking or something. I just need this. I just need that. I need that supplement. I need that program.
Yeah.
They think the solution is additive. Very, very rarely is the solution additive. It's almost always subtractive. And when people understand this, they start to understand that their body will operate perfectly well with minimal nutrition. When I say minimal nutrition, name me another species that eats a balanced diet other than the humans. I'll give you to the end of this podcast. That's question number 1. Find me another species that eats a balanced diet. Every species on Earth eats a species-specific, species-appropriate diet. Except for humans, who think they have to go around the houses and they have to fill their plate with a rainbow and eat a variety of foods. I wonder who put that in everybody's head.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done a couple of videos on that. I hate that whole thing, a balanced diet. Like it's like you're balancing out good with bad. Like just get rid of the bad, like you say. The diet we eat today is completely not species appropriate. The majority of the foods we eat today, pretty much all of them, didn't exist a couple hundred years ago. So there's no way they can be appropriate for us as a species. So yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely, but there's a
things.
lot of money being made by selling you that balance.
Yep. Oh yeah, money. It all comes back to money.
It all comes back to money, and we can talk about how the food industry plays into the pharmaceutical industry, and how these two industries are in bed with each other. And you talk about the military-industrial complex. There's also the pharmaceutical industrial complex as well, which is probably bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it was the inextricably linked, in that it was the drug industry, the tobacco companies, I think, were who kind of took over the sugar industries right at the beginning, didn't they? And they knew how to get people addicted, and that's what they set out to do. And that's how they run it.
Yeah, I could take you through the last century, and I could show you a few key milestones that set the tone for the rest of the latter part of last century and the century we're in just now. It was literally 4 or 5 key moves that dictated all the chronic disease that we're seeing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, with what you said about the additive thing, I see this all the time in groups and on Facebook and other things, where I try and give advice to people and stuff, and you see people all the time saying, what supplement can I take for this? What can I take for this? Where can I find more of this? And I always say, in your diet, sort your diet out. I always ask first thing, say, well, what's your diet like? They're eating all this rubbish and that, and they just want a supplement or a pill to fix it. And unfortunately, that's how people are nowadays.
Completely. It's like someone asking me, how do you bench press 130 kilos? Say, well, can you do 10 push-ups? Kind of. Talk to me when you can.
Yeah, exactly. It's very I always say nutrition is very simple, but we've complicated it to the point that now it seems complicated. But if you get rid of all the rubbish, it's very simple. You stick to a couple of foods, eat what's right for humans, listen to your body, and it's pretty easy from there.
Just to interject as well, it's also become complicated in order to sound fancy and knowledgeable. When actually there's nothing of the sort. You need your certain amount of carbs, you need your certain amount of fiber, you need a certain amount of this. It's nonsense, and we know a lot of people in the mainstream adhere to that, and that's not what the science shows.
No, I think you get a lot of people within health and fitness industry, like you say, they want to appear like they're smart. They want to appear like they're needed. So they're saying, "Oh, you've got to do this. It's really complex, and this and that, and I'll show you." And it's not complex at all.
The difficult part of this is not what to do; it's how to actually get somebody in the frame where they can actually adopt this. And that's the difficult bit. The actual behaviour part of the bottom of the pyramid is incredibly, incredibly simple. It's everything above that. Where do they hang out? What do they believe to be true? What are their attitudes and values? What do they hold dear to themselves? What is their identity? All of that is screwing up what they're doing.
Yeah. I agree completely. I think that kind of really holds true with what you've said about that whole list of things lining up with identity. With a lot of vegans who become so cultish, and we don't always bash vegans on the show, but like some of them, it's so obviously not true what they're saying, and you can see them getting sicker and sicker over time, and they just refuse to accept it's anything to do with their diet because that's become their identity. Like not eating animals and saving the planet has become their identity, and they refuse to change for it. So I guess that is that whole thing working there.
Becomes ideological. And vegans can experience a better baseline of health if you've come from eating Twinkies and drinking Coca-Cola, which is essentially plant-based. Let's face it. Heroin's plant-based, cocaine is plant-based, Twinkies are plant-based, Pop-Tarts are plant-based. Pepsi Cola's plant-based. But people don't view it that way, do they? You want to pull it out of the ground and eat it raw. They think that's the route to health, and that presents a completely different set of problems than eating refined plants does. Both of them are completely inadequate and inappropriate for humans. But you can go from the standard American diet, eating plant-based, and do better. But how long is that going to last before the deficiencies kick in and before you fill your body full of anti-nutrients and chelators and damage your gut? You might get 6 months, a year. Some people might get to 2 or 3 years and do okay. But mark my words, they will all fall to bits, and invariably they do.
Yeah, you see it happen over time. I think it's like 85%. I could be wrong. I think it's about 85% of people who go vegan don't last more than a year, I think, or something like that. And you do see, like you say, cutting out all the rubbish and going to it, they would get health benefits to begin with. But as you say, it's the long term because you're going to be deficient. You'll have to be, even with the best supplementing, you're not going to be getting what your body needs still because supplements are synthetic. They're not bioavailable like naturally in food. So you just can't do it.
They're not in the right form for your body to absorb. You only really absorb nutrients from animals. It's just that simple. You don't have the bioavailability in plants, and plants hold on to their nutrition. Plants do not want you to get access to their nutrition, so it's in a slightly different form that your body utilizes. If you think that you're going to improve your sight because you're getting vitamin A from carrots, think again. You're getting beta carotene. You need to eat 3 kilos of it to absorb anything like you would get in a small piece of liver about that size. And you've gone and completely toxified your system trying to get hold of that vitamin A. Why not go straight to the retinol form that you'll find in animal products? Problem solved.
Yeah, absolutely. I have this argument with people lots on protein as well. People say about all the plant proteins you can get. And I said, no plant proteins have the full range of amino acids that your body needs. You can't absorb it like you can from meat. It's not, and that's the whole thing with nutritional values that kind of fools people because they're told, oh, this bit of vegetable has this, and this in it. Yeah, but how much can your body actually absorb and actually use? It's actually way, way less than what is written down.
Where's the carnitine? Where's the creatine? Where's the carnosine? Where are all those peptides that you're never going to find in plants that they're never going to be able to synthesize? They're all completely absent, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface what all of these elements in sync with the body to optimize your health. This cannot be obtained from plants. Plants are survival foods. We have adapted to be able to consume plants and survive only in times of leanness or war or famine. Our baseline food was never plants. No culture in the history of our species has ever rejected animal foods in preference for plants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's crazy. I find it crazy because I think you only need to apply a little bit of common sense, and it's very obvious. But common sense seems to have left everyone, and people struggle to see it. Like we're literally made of meat. Why would we eat plants?
Absolutely. Yeah. Unless you've got a fermentation chamber somewhere in your body, you ain't going to upcycle that grass that a cow's upcycling. You look at a cow, it's a perfect fermentation chamber. It's taking what's poisonous to you, it's upcycling it, and it's producing the most bioavailable essential amino acids, essential fatty acids in the planet.
Yeah.
Where's the confusion here? We're bypassing the cow and going to the grass. Does that make any sense to anybody?
Exactly. And we can't process the fibers. People say about, oh, gorillas are close to us, and that we have a completely different gut, intestines to gorillas, and they spend like about 16 18 hours of their day chewing, and they have to eat their own crap to get B12. So I don't think I really want to eat the same diet as them.
And many of these species, when they can obtain meat, they will eat it. You know, monkeys will eat other monkeys when they can kill them and other animals. Because they recognise a very rare source of nutrition. But, you know, if we look at our trajectory from when we evolved, we came out into the savannah, we started making the adaptations to move preferentially to meat. If you look at the appendix today, what it used to be was that the cecum, we would be able to ferment these plants at some point. We lost that adaptation. Through either positive or negative selection pressures, we became adapted to eat meat. We don't have fangs and claws to launch headlong into an animal. We developed the ability to use tools and hunt in packs, large ruminant animals. That's where we put our resources into making these tools and hunting in groups, because the payoff was massive. You would take down a large animal. We then were able to create fire and get access to deeper levels of that nutrition. You're not seeing farmers on cave walls, you're seeing hunts.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the thing. There's no cave paintings of vegetables. It's it's all hunting and animals. Yeah, exactly. That is, you know, you go back in time, and that is the diet we would have had. There's periods, you know, there's the ice age. What plants were growing then? You know, it's obvious, very obvious. You look back at human history, hugely obvious that we had to have survived on mostly meat. And it's only the last, 10,000 or however many thousand years that we've started bringing in farming and agriculture just to provide more food for people. But that is not our original source of food.
You're so right. And it's by telling these stories that you can help shift and change people very quickly. You can sit there and talk about bioavailability and anti-nutrients and chelators. Tell them a story that they can connect with, and they will snap back into shape very, very quickly. So that's what my whole kind of method's about. It's about telling stories, essentially. Can I tell you another one?
Go on, go for it. We love a story.
Right, okay. So think of somebody that's overweight. So you've got an overweight individual. They've got a lot of body fat. What is the primary purpose of that body fat? And I'll throw the question back to you guys.
Survival. And it's the body storing energy.
It's the body storing energy. So why are obese people in a constant energy crisis if they've got tens or even hundreds of thousands of kilojoules of stored energy on their body?
Their body doesn't want to burn it to release the energy.
Yeah, they're not fat adapted.
Do that.
They can't get access to that energy. They can't transact with it. It's almost having, you know, a battery storage and something that's driving off the battery, but the circuitry is not connected. What do you think happens when you connect up that circuitry? They're then able to access that stored energy, and the lights come on. Now, so many people, they're in a fed state from the minute they get up to the minute they go to bed. And some people will be metabolically functional in that routine, but the vast majority of people will fall into this state of storing fat and never being able to access that fat. So this is where the fasting comes in. It is essentially the gateway to accessing your body's potential.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's with because with it all comes down to insulin resistance is a huge driver in a lot of it, isn't it? And when insulin is raised, I think it's that you can't burn fat while it's raised, or it's very hard to. It locks away all the fat and stores it. You can only really burn it when it's low. And with how often people eat and all the carbs they eat and the sugars they eat, their bodies, like you say, it locks it away, and it's basically never able to access it. They're just full of sugar all the time.
Exactly. So it's locked away. It's in the deep freeze. This is another story I tell people. If I say to people, if you need energy, if you need food, where do you go? Do you go to the fridge or do you go to the freezer? You go to the fridge, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you go to the fridge?
It's available straight away.
Yeah, because those calories, that energy is available to you. You wouldn't think about going into the freezer if you needed energy there and then, would you? Now, what do you need? What needs to happen to that food in the freezer in order to become available to you? What do you first need to do to it?
The frost.
It needs to thaw out, doesn't it? So you need to create the conditions to thaw and start to transact with your stored energy. And once you create those conditions, all your problems of appetite regulation and craving carbohydrates will become a thing of the past. You never have to deal with that problem again.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've heard, I think I spoke about it with Barry on the podcast before. I came across this really interesting story of a guy in Scotland. It was early 1900s, I think, who fasted for over a year. He was a massively obese guy. And yeah, he was fine. He lost a ton of weight. It was just water. I think they gave him electrolytes and stuff, but literally just water for over a year. And his body survived off his fat. And people think you'd struggle to fast on water for more than a couple of days. People think, it's dangerous. No, especially if you're fat, if you're overweight, you can fast for a long time.
Yeah, that's Angus Barbieri from Dundee.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the longest medically supervised fast. I think it was 360 something days. It was like a year and a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And you're right, he survived in fluids and vitamins and minerals. And what was remarkable about his case is that his skin came back as well. So, which was another observation, which shows that is autophagy in full effect. Your body is taking all your deficient cells and deficient organelles, and through the process of autophagy is essentially recycling them.
Regenerate.
You can completely renew your whole biology through this process of autophagy, and it's something that many people never tap into, because if you're in a fed state, you can't do autophagy, you can't do lipolysis, you can't produce brain-derived neurotrophic factor, can't recycle your white blood cells, you can't do DNA repair, you can't activate your sirtuins. There's a whole host of amazing processes that happen in the body that are completely blocked or at least blunted when you're in a fed state. Why would you do that to yourself when the body can just perform these amazing feats?
Absolutely. I can't remember who a lot of the guys I follow within the kind of carnivore space, and that a lot of the doctors and stuff that I follow. There's a few that talk about, I can't remember who it is, might be Sean Baker, someone else, but it says that basically people talk about the fasting state and the fed state as in, we're in the fed state and now and again we can get into the fasting state. But he says that the fasting state is our state. We go in and out of the fed state when we eat, but the fasting state is where we should be. And I think it's Dr. Robert Kiltz who talks, instead of calling it intermittent fasting, he actually calls it intermittent feasting.
Yeah.
So it's just changing your mind to think about, look, fasted is how you should be, and then when your body needs food, okay, now I'll give it food and go back to my normal state.
Brilliant. It's these little nuances in how you position something that really shift people. And you just gave an excellent example there. Another example I lose is people say, I want to lose weight. And I say to them, well, what did you do the last time you lost your car keys? You went and found them, didn't you?
Yeah, look for them.
Yeah, yeah. And in a strange sort of way, when you explain to people, don't struggle to lose weight, allow your body to release the weight. It takes on a completely different nuance. The body will release the weight if you create the conditions for your body to release the weight. You cannot grind your way to health and wellness. It has to be a passive process.
Absolutely. I've been listening a bit recently to Professor Tim Noakes. I don't know, I'm sure you know some of his work. And really interesting. Really interesting, talking about, you know, they'd done a ton of research on it, and he found that they worked with top athletes, and they were basically trying to find a way that they could trick the body into burning fat before it burned the glucose or the glycogen in the muscles. And he said that there's no way. If your body's full of glucose, your body will not burn fat until it's burned that up. So these people who are eating all these carbs, trying to lose weight and doing all the cardio, they've got to burn all of that glucose before they even start on the fat. And
absolutely. But I will caveat that by saying, once you're really well fat adapted and you are fasting, your body will spare glucose. You will preserve your muscle and liver glycogen longer, tap into your free fatty acids sooner, produce more ketones sooner, and do gluconeogenesis sooner. So there's a number of processes that happen that overlap with each other in a very synchronous way, so that you're never hungry, you never hit a wall, you're never in this emergency. You've always got fuel available to you, and the transition is very slow and passive. It's about building these adaptations, not just in your mind, but physiologically as well, and it's all interlinked, because there's different systems in your body adapt in sync with each other. So your brain will adapt, your gut microbiome will adapt, your mitochondria will adapt, the brown fat in your adipose tissue will adapt. You've got all these different adaptations, all essentially working towards the same goal, making you able to last the whole day without eating. It's quite an amazing feat what happens actually, in the way they all just sync up and work together.
Yeah, I was actually listening to one today, and they were actually talking on what you just said there, that athletes who were fat adapted, from the minute they started exercising, they were burning, I think, 1.5 grams of fat per minute as soon as they started. And they weren't even top level athletes, they were just not normal athletes, which, you know, you would expect it to be a long time to get to that. And they were talking about with ultra marathons and that, with, you know, you could do 5 hours of cardio easily on fat, whereas if you had the glucose, you'll have the big dip down as you transfer over. But if you're fat adapted, you can start on it, and like you say, you still have the glucose available to you. But it's really interesting, all of that stuff.
Absolutely. Your body makes its own sugar. I mean, people look at you as though you're daft when you tell them that your body will do gluconeogenesis. Let's think about what that means. So your blood sugar should be a function of the demands that you put in your body, not what you put in your mouth. As soon as you make it a function of what you put in your mouth, that's when you run into problems. That's when you've got chronically elevated blood sugar. That's when your body stops responding to insulin. That's when you can't get access to stored body fat. That's when you have appetite dysregulation.
Absolutely.
So make your own sugar.
Yeah, that's it. Your body can, and then when your body's making it yourself, it makes it as and when it needs it, and the right amount, rather than giving your body a ton of sugar it can't do anything with, and then, you know, you get the negative consequences of that.
Precisely. So I think, you know, people do learn through stories, so we've uncovered a few there that are really helpful. The fridge freezer analogy, the battery without the circuitry analogy. There's so many stories you could tell. The hybrid car is a good one as well. You know, if you think about your carbohydrate being like the internal combustion engine, and think about, you know, when you don't need to grind the gears, you can just rely on the electric, which is your fat stores. So become a good hybrid engine.
Yeah. We also don't mix petrol and diesel when you're putting it into your car either, do you? If it's a petrol car, it's a petrol car. It's going to run.
True. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this, Barry. So, I mean, I think that the main problem is mixed macronutrients. Yeah, when you're eating fat and carbohydrate together.
Yeah.
you'll not find fat and carbohydrate really combined in the same food. I mean, animals are essentially protein and fat, and plants are pretty much carbohydrate, a small amount of protein and hardly any fat. So it's this whole thing filling your plate up from, you know, you're going to harvest the potatoes and then you're going to farm the sheep and put them together. You're going to run into problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's because it obviously a high fat, low carb or zero carb diet, you will burn fat and lose fat. But if you eat high fat alongside high carb, then you're going to have issues, like you say. You're going to end up fat. And if you're high carb, low fat, you'll end up fat. But the mixing high carb and high fat will give you issues.
Definitely, and you can alleviate chronic disease even by eating, chicken breast and rice, because you're not stimulating that Randle cycle. You're not competing fat for carbohydrate. The cell will let the carbohydrate in because the fat isn't present. So you don't have a huge elevation in blood sugar there. It's when you're eating the fat and the carbohydrate. As you look at the standard American diet, it's all built around that.
Exactly, yeah, it is. And they're eating all the stuff. It's like when they have the research that's saying that fat's bad and meat's bad. You look at the diet of the people they've used in the research, and they're eating fat within fast food and meat that within fast food. It's not exactly representative of people who are actually in a healthy diet of meat and fat. And like you say, it's then mixed with all the carbohydrates, and it's just a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. And when we talk about fats, there's a huge difference between saturated animal fat and plant seed oils.
Yeah.
There's a huge, we didn't have any seed oils until probably the 1940s. They are our creation, these polyunsaturated fatty acids that are in everything. They're industrial, they're cheap, they're nasty, they cause massive inflammation in the body. I probably eliminated them about 5 years ago, and I never ever get sunburned. This is just another byproduct, because you're not building skin cells out of pro-oxidative fats. Yeah,
I've found that too. That my skin's much better in the sun. Absolutely, that's something a lot of people find. Yeah, seed oils are they're just pure poison, really. You look at them and you look at what's in them and what happens to the body, and especially when they're heated as well. People using them for vegetable oils and seed oils for cooking.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy to do that. Not meant to be heated up in that state at all. And Akis will come on to how much better beef dripping is in tallow to fry your meat, to cook your meat than any sort of oils. I used to look at, I'm running out of olive oil and I need to get some. Now I've still got the same bottle of olive oil I've had for weeks now, and I've hardly had any, because I would only ever use it in the odd salad dressing.
Yeah, and I think with one of the nuances is that olive oil at room temperature is actually pretty much fine for you. It's if it's heated.
It's heated, yeah.
That's what makes it worse, because olive oil is a bit different to the other seed oils, isn't it? Olive oil, if you have it cold, seed oils you wouldn't touch. Olive oil cold, like you say, but for cooking with heat, only animal fats is all you want to use for that.
Cold pressed virgin, unheated, hasn't seen light, hasn't seen the heat, is good for you. But again, quality oils are that hard to come by. They're even difficult to pick up from even a luxury supermarket. You'll struggle to get a good source of olive oil, but if you can get it, I think in moderation, it's fine. Along with coconut oil, avocado oil, cold pressed, undamaged, can jive with the body quite well. But you should never make up the majority of your fat intake. The majority should be saturated fat from animals, ideally animals that are grass fed or at least grass finished. You're not just what you eat, you are what you ate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true. It does make a difference with your meat. I get a farmer I know in the UK, and I get most of my meat from him. But sometimes I'll have to get it from the supermarket, and you feel the difference. You really do.
Amazing. I love it. Connect with your local farmers. They're out there, they're struggling. The regime is trying to marginalise them because it wants you to be eating kibble. So support them, give them your cash while you still got it. and live your best life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we try and encourage people to do. I'm also interested in obviously you said you work within the pharmaceutical industry as well. So I'm kind of interested in some of your stories on that too, because I have, we have views on the pharmaceutical and medical industry, which, I'm sure that you may share, but interesting that you also work in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be the first to put my hand up and say it's hypocritical. I know that. It's not congruent. I happen to be very good at my job. It happens to pay very well. I would say the early next year will have replaced my salary through helping people the natural way, and that's my goal. That's my ambition. Like the pharmaceutical industry is a great industry to work in. I cut my teeth in pharma about 20 years ago as a GP rep, and from there moved into more specialist disease areas, worked in high-cost drugs, worked in medicines access, more senior roles. It does equip you to go and do quite a lot in life, as long as you can not become institutionalized within that world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it teaches you to plan very effectively. It teaches you how to sell. It teaches you how to manage your resources, how to be self-sufficient. I've always loved the life on the road. I work from home. I work in the field. It's brilliant. I couldn't see myself going into an office every day. And as long as you've got one foot in that and one foot in the real world, where you realise that this whole charade of healthcare is not about healthcare, it's about disease and symptom management, then you can actually do it quite congruently. And I think I've managed to do that. But my time is limited. I'm reaching the end of that road.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome that on the side though you are also trying to help people properly, which is good as well. Because obviously, as we know, within the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry, they're interested in money, not really actually helping people. So I don't know how embedded in the industry you are as to what you've seen, but I imagine you've seen a fair amount of things that kind of are almost sad to see in terms of people not getting the right help.
Well, I'll tell you what's sad to see. When I'm taking a lunch in to a meeting, and invariably I can't take them a meat platter, because where are you really going to go to get a meat platter? Maybe you can get some cold cuts in an Italian deli, but it's going to be like Marks and Spencer's sandwiches, and all the doctors sort of light up when they see Marks and Spencer's platter of sandwiches, which I've not been able to stomach for the last 15 years. And they'll offer you some lunch, and then you get into the conversation. Not only do I not eat those sandwiches, I don't eat lunch. Or do you have breakfast and skip lunch? No, I skip breakfast as well. And before you know, the whole lunchtime meeting is being consumed with this regime that I'm on. And at the end of it, they're kind of looking at you and saying, yeah, I'm still standing here. I'm probably older than you. I live all year in pretty much single-digit body fat, and I don't need to come and see any of you guys unless I get hit by a bus. So clearly I'm doing something right.
Exactly. I mean, with the whole, OMAD eating and things like that, people forget that. I mean, I think it's less, if you go back, I think less than 100 years, lunch wasn't really a thing. Lunch was invented for the factory workers, wasn't it? Just to give them a break in between, and people just assume that we've always ate lunch.
Exactly, and breakfast was invented for the slaves.
Yeah.
Before they would go out and pick cotton in the fields, they would pack them with cheap calories. There would be the break fast and send them out into the fields. So are we all slaves and factory workers today? No, but we're adopting the regime happily, thinking that we're doing the right thing. Mr. Kellogg's has sold that to us, and the rest is history.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kellogg's have done a lot of damage to diet.
Circling back to sorry, go back.
Now go on.
No, I was going to say that fruit and fibre as well. That's a fantastic bit of marketing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Good bit of alliteration there. Fruit and fibre. My goodness, where would we be without it? Yeah. And then people say to me, "Oh, how do you get by with no fibre?" I'm like, well, what's the first thing a gastroenterologist removed from your diet when you've got issues. It's fibre, isn't it? They put you in a low residue diet. So if that's going to take you from sick to functional, why can't it take you from functional to exceptional? At what point do you suffer a fibre deficiency?
Yeah, I get asked that all the time as well. So I go better than I ever did before. So there's literally no issues. It's fine. But yeah, people can't get their head around it. And again, it's just another myth that's been made up. Again, you go back a certain amount of time and no one even knew about fibre.
Absolutely, yeah. It was indigestible. You couldn't consume any part of the plant. All plants have been hybridized and, bred to a state where they are, we can keep them down and derive some sort of nutrition from them. But all plants are on the toxicity spectrum. It just so happens that the one you pick off the produce aisle is at the least end of that toxic spectrum. They are trying to defend themselves and they're trying to kill you. And there's been an arms race between animals and plants for the whole of evolutionary time, and some animals have outcompeted the plants, and some plants have outcompeted the animals. We need to know a place in the order of things. We are apex predators. That's what we are. That's how we got to where we are today. That's how we grew our brains.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about the hybridizing the plants, which obviously, as you say, we've done over hundreds of thousand years, but we've hybridized them to make them so that, as you said, we can stomach them, but we've not improved the nutritional value of them. We've not improved them to give us the nutrition we need. We've just made it so that we can stomach them. So you're never going to get all your nutrition from them.
No, 8,000 years ago, you would have had to find something that would poison you, and that would have been a task, and you would only have done it if you were unsuccessful hunting for 3-4 days and you needed to stay alive. Yeah. That's where plants fitted in, and obviously there's differences depending on where you were on the planet and seasons and ice ages and that sort of thing. But that was the general way of it, wasn't it, for the history of humanity? Yeah. Circling back to medical, that there are good medical interventions, but the whole way the healthcare system is set up, they wait for people to get sick and then they treat them, and unfortunately I'm part of that, and it doesn't sit right with me. I'm happy to work for a company that I think is relatively ethical. I think that their treatment is safe and effective. I think that it can form a good protocol for somebody who's suffering with chronic inflammatory diseases, as long as they're doing the right thing in the background to help improve their condition. So pharmaceuticals can be a part of the solution. They can. And, where do pharmaceuticals come from? Well, they all come from essentially plants. Through one way or another, plants for me are medicines. They're not food, they're not sustenance, and they have these amazing properties that can bring you back into balance.
Yeah, I agree. I think natural remedies and herbal medicines and that absolutely have their place, and they absolutely work. And I agree. Plants as a form of medicine, absolutely. As a form of my diet, not so much. Like, I think again, it's one of the guys I was watching. I can't remember who. They were talking about mushrooms. And a lot of people eat vegans. One of their things to defend mushrooms is that it has something in it that is a type of chemo. Can't remember what it is. And they're saying, "Oh, well, I have that." He says, "Yeah, but you wouldn't have chemo if you didn't have cancer. So why are you running around eating chemo if you don't have cancer? They're a medicine, and if they're needed to be used, they can be. I've used natural remedies before that have worked great, but you don't need to eat them."
It's known as hormesis, where a little bit of toxin. The whole premise is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So you introduce a little bit of toxin, your body recognizes that toxin, it starts to activate pathways like NRF2, activate your sirtuin genes, it starts to defend itself, it upregulates its own endogenous glutathione production, which is your body's own antioxidant. So your body will defend against these things, but again, there's a therapeutic window. Yeah, you can have these small acute insults which will make you healthier. You don't necessarily have to derive them through nutrition. You can jump into cold water, you can do a hard workout, you can do breath work, you can do fasting. That there's other ways to get hormesis. But nutrition has its place, and these plant compounds are quite interesting, where it can bring the body back into balance. But ultimately, if you're well, you don't need to be introducing these into the body at all.
Yeah, one of the things that makes me laugh is that they tell you how good plants are for you, but then they also use hormesis as an argument for it, which is them accepting that actually they're poisonous for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of doesn't.
And it's like, okay, in what compounds, in what dose, and how do you know that a Brussels sprout is giving you a hormetic dose in all of the 800 cancer-causing compounds that's in a Brussels sprout? I mean, there's a reason that kids spit Brussels sprouts out, and there's not because they're trying to be little bastards. It's just because they recognise they should be eating it.
That's it. I think like kids always hate vegetables. Kids don't want to eat vegetables, and there's a reason for that. I think our body knows that we don't want to eat vegetables. I don't miss vegetables at all. Some people maybe do. I mean, I always liked fruit. I maybe miss fruit a little bit, but vegetables, not at all. I don't miss them one bit.
Well, the fruit happens to be a ripe fruit, the part of the plant that it's going to surrender a certain time of year, and it also is a Trojan horse into you perhaps seeding those seeds in another field and propagating it. So, there is an innate wisdom in how nature works, whether it's the colour and the sweetness associated with a ripe fruit that would present at a certain time of year. That plant would get a benefit from giving that part of that plant to an animal. That animal might store some convert the fructose to body fat for the winter. So there's a wisdom in how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I read recently as well about how bears will actually, when they're getting ready to hibernate, they actually start eating mostly berries in their diet, literally stocking up on them, because the fructose will enable them to, as you said, to make a load of body fat, which gets them through their hibernation, which I found really interesting. Yeah,
that's very interesting. Fructose is, I think, 4 or 6 times more glycating than table sugar. So fruit is not benign, but it can have its place if it's consistent with how it's supposed to be consumed.
Right.
Yeah.
For example,
go on, Barry.
Yeah, just as an example, it would be better to eat fruit perhaps in the winter as a snack, because it provides that fructose in order to bulk up a little bit for that.
It would only come at a certain time of the year. Yeah.
And I think it's much more likely that, thousands of years ago, our ancestors, if they were going to be forced to eat some type of plant, it's much more likely it would have been fruit than things like the vegetables we eat today. I think that would have been much more likely.
Exactly right. And I think ancestrally, everything had a risk and everything had a benefit. There was a risk to hunting a mammoth. Yeah. But what was the payoff? The payoff's enormous. Yeah, your tribe is going to eat for some time. If you're going to raid a beehive, there's a risk to that as well. Do you see what I mean? To get that fast energy. And if you're going to find a plant to eat, well, is that one okay or is that one not okay? Do I need to boil that one? Is that one okay fermented but not raw? Yeah. So all of these decisions would have cost you in the past. And again, it's all about positive and negative selection pressures, and all that's been removed today because you walk into the supermarket and you take it off the shelf.
Absolutely. It's become just too easy, which is, how we've got to, people eat non-stop nowadays. Like some people go through a day hardly being an hour or two without eating and, shoving something in their mouth, whether it's a sugary drink or food, and it's not at all how humans are meant to be. We would have easily gone a day or two without eating, then ate some proper food, and now we're just non-stop sugar, and it's
completely. And this is what I seek to do. I just want to give people their authentic sense of self back, a sense of control, where they don't have to engage in any fitness or diet program. They just have to understand some key fundamentals, realign their beliefs and values, adopt a new identity, and not give a shit what other people think. I mean, people say to me, how do you not eat lunch? Do you not miss out on social occasions? I say, no. I'll sit and watch everybody get tired in the afternoon, and I'll be the most interesting person at the table. And I get to have a banquet that night and really, really enjoy that one meal that is. It's an event. When you eat at night, I just ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner over the last hour and a half before I joined you, and it was absolutely immense.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that you enjoy food more, like as you were, kind of saying there. I enjoy food much more now that I eat properly and I eat less often, and you look forward to it and you enjoy it a lot more than, although the sugary stuff appeals to you, and you think, oh yeah, that'd be nice, never satisfies you.
No, we're all overfed and undernourished. That's that's the problem. You're seeking that nourishment by feeding yourself, and that's where all the problems start. Your body will recognize true nutrition when you get it, and you will know when you're truly satiated, when your body recognizes that you're getting, those essential fatty acids, those fat-soluble vitamins, that your amino acids pool is fulfilled. Your body will recognise that as being truly, truly satiated. And it's a completely different sensation from being stuffed.
Yeah. And it's where I come to, having such a big problem with the whole calories thing, because a calorie is nothing. A calorie gives you no nutritional value, and these people are so obsessed with calories in, calories out in the fitness space, and it doesn't mean anything, because you get two identical twins and put them on a diet of 2,000 calories. Yeah. One's eating a certain food, one's eating another, same exercise, same calories. One will lose weight and one won't. It's a calorie doesn't tell you anything really about the food.
No, a calorie will tell you the amount of heat that's generated when a bolus of food is fully combusted in a bomb calorimeter. But body's not a bomb calorimeter. We don't break down food by incinerating it. We break it down chemically. That's under the control of hormones. You've got the thermic effect of protein. There's many other factors that are going to determine how that energy is utilised in the body. Added to which, food labels are allowed a margin of error from between 12 and 15% plus or minus.
Yeah.
So what is this word that people talk about called calorie? Well, it is completely and utterly meaningless. It's a rough guide if you're starting from absolute zero. But as soon as you get on that bandwagon, you've bought into that paradigm again, that you need all these external barometers of what to do. And when you're listening to everything on the outside and you're counting calories and you've got this app and this biometric here and there, you're never going to tune into your own internal barometer. And that's what's going to guide you to abundant health without any intervention from any labels or any apps or any biofeedback.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, they didn't have apps. They weren't counting calories. They weren't taking supplements. They weren't checking they had their macros and micros in order. They just ate what they were supposed to eat. And like you say, they listened to their body. And it's super easy. Like once you start on this diet, I've found it's just so easy. You just listen. Like, if I eat and I finish and I'm still hungry, I'll eat more. But sometimes I might eat and actually I can't finish what I've got. I'll just leave it.
Completely. And, if nothing else, that allows you some scope to make some mistakes now and again as well. I'm not perfect. I don't know if you're perfect. I try to do well when mostly I'm at home. I've got control of my environment. But, you can fall off the wagon here and there, and you can go snap back to baseline in a matter of a day or two. Your body can take quite a bit of insult, actually, if you build a resilient base.
Yeah, credit in the bank. Yeah, definitely. As we spoke about previously, when you've got that credit in the bank, you can go on holiday and eat some carbs or some junk. You can come back, and then by fasting the next day and just clearing your gut out, you can reestablish dominance very quickly.
You can. I was in Italy, I think 5 or 6 days, and I did eat the pasta. I did eat the Napoli's pizza. Had to try it. It was good at the time. It was an experience. It made sense to do it, but that was a very conscious decision. And I think I did a 36-hour fast when I came back, and I pretty much reset. I didn't have any carbohydrate cravings after that, and I defaulted back onto my usual diet. That's
it. I think it's as well. It's when you have the knowledge, it's a calculated decision. Now and again, I'll allow myself a treat. Maybe something sugary, and I know that it's not good for me, and I know that after I have it, I'll feel a little bit rough. But like you say, you understand that it's calculated risk. You have that, and then you're back to normal. And within a day or so, you're feeling normal again. But people have no knowledge. They don't understand what they're doing to themselves, and that's kind of the main issue.
Yeah, they don't understand, but you've got to be the guardian of your own health, and you've got to establish that you're doing this for you, and ultimately you're the only one that cares about you. People think that the health system cares, or some supplement provider cares. Nobody cares but you. So why should you care what anybody thinks about what you do? Do the right thing for yourself, because people might think it's selfish, but you can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's nothing that's highlighted that more than the last couple of years, that no one else cares about your health. And unfortunately, a lot of people have no idea of what health actually is, which was really highlighted. Over the last couple of years, and with everything that's gone on, I really kind of looked more at my own health, and realized that everyone else doesn't care about your health. The people in power and the health companies and everyone else, they don't care about your health.
No,
it's all about money. They're telling you all lies, and you need to take control of it yourself. And that's that really opened my eyes, and I think of many others. But sadly, a lot of people are still fooled by it all.
They are, and the people that are fooled by it a lot of them are very well intentioned. A lot of them are very intelligent, but their journey began and their path was set. Medical school is not about keeping the population healthy. You're lucky if you get 5 hours of nutrition training in medical school and you get taught the food pyramid, which should be turned on its head. Yeah. So the very fundamentals of the Hippocratic Oath, let food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food, is violated as soon as that Hippocratic Oath is hypocritically taken on the first day of medical school. Yeah. 5, 6 years later, you graduate, you're 80 grand in debt. You just want to make some money.
Yeah.
You're part of a fraternity. You're part of a club. You're recognised for your credentials and your doctor, blah, blah, blah. But let's face it, if I took their diagnostic tools away and I took their prescription pads away, I would have infinitely more capacity to return someone back to health than they do. Yeah. None of them want to admit it, but that's just a fact.
Absolutely. Their job essentially and what they're trained in, as you say, a lot of it is what they're trained in, rather than putting all the blame on them. They're just trained to prescribe drugs is what they're trained in. As you say, there's hardly any nutritional training. Your doctor doesn't know any more about nutrition than you do, unless they've searched it in their spare time, which I don't think a lot of them do. And their job's just to prescribe drugs, and that's what they do. They're just doing their job.
Completely. Can you imagine we paid GPs to not see patients instead of seeing them? How about we link their bonus payments to not seeing their patients?
Yeah.
And not prescribing drugs.
That's it.
They'll soon start learning about preventative medicine and functional medicine.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of, especially within the carnivore, there's a lot of the guys at the forefront are doctors, and they basically, after however many years, realized that what they were doing wasn't helping them as well as their patients, and they went on a journey and discovered it, and that's where they ended up at carnivore after actually looking into it. But unfortunately, a lot of the doctors are still stuck at just what they were taught.
Yeah, Dr. Ken Berry, Lies My Doctor Told Me. He wrote a book about the lies he used to tell to his patients. I mean, how much more can you expose yourself than that? The guy's got, I think, about 2.6 million followers on YouTube, and it's for a reason, because he's a real authentic doctor that knows the medical side and knows the functional side, and that's who you need to be engaging with in that whole soup of health, because you're not going to find it in the NHS. So you're just not. And acute care is really impressive in the Western world. If I have an accident, I want Western medicine because it's phenomenal. But do I want Western medicine for chronic disease management? No, sir.
No. And like you, go on, Barry.
No, I was just saying they're two totally different things and totally different solutions. If you're in an accident, touch wood, and you need, you need medical assistance, then it's great. But for actually maintaining a healthy lifestyle all comes from your nutrition and your lifestyle. Your
Yeah. When you've got an obese nurse measuring your biomarkers because you're diabetic, then you know something's going wrong there.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say a lot of the doctors, like Ken Berry himself and a couple others, he was really obese as well. So, you know, he realized that he knew nothing about nutrition, and he got himself back to health.
Yeah, I mean, I could present to a doctor and he would diagnose me as having a statin deficiency because one of my blood markers is out of whack to what he got taught. That look as though I've got a statin deficiency.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like they're just, you know, they, as you say, they're taught this. And one of the other things that's crazy, talking about blood levels as well, is that I think to get the average for a year, I think it's they take like the first however many 100 or 1,000 people come into the hospital at the beginning of the year, and that's their average for the year. But that's people who are in hospital. That's not a representation of healthy people.
No, absolutely not. And you know, being the outlier, you're completely ostracized. You know, you've got no right to be the outlier. Yeah, you know, you're vilified for it, you're marginalized for it, and you're gaslit for it. Actually, yeah. I mean, during the let's call it a pandemic, okay? Because in some ways it was a pandemic with a nasty virus, didn't we? And it hit some people pretty hard. But you know, we knew from day one who would who were going to be candidates to suffer from COVID, and it was predominantly the aged, the vitamin D deficient, those with blood sugar dysregulation, those that are obese. Why did we all have to participate in this charade and completely ruin the health system that was already under strain? I now think that, you know, the NHS will be no more in 5 years, and it can't happen soon enough for me. I think that privatisation should happen tomorrow. But this is massively accelerated, and all under the guise of what? Keeping granny safe.
Yeah, ridiculous. And the fact that they, you know, that being healthy is the thing that's going to help you to not be affected by it. Yet they shut gyms. You weren't allowed to go out running far from your home. Like, I mean, they encourage you not to exercise and stay inside your home. Yet having good health was the thing that would have helped you.
Exactly. They didn't encourage it. They mandated it. They mandated that you stay in your doors and have a fire hose of junk food piped into your house.
Yeah.
And propaganda piped through your TV for months on end, making you even more vitamin D deficient than you already were, making you even more insulin resistant than you already were, gaining probably the best part of a pound or two a month. How do you think people emerged from that first lockdown?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the majority of people, I don't think their health and their immune system has ever been the same since, and may never be, to be honest. And the whole, you know, the hand sanitizer and, you know, trying to desanitize everything.
The cutting off the oxygen from your face, making you wear that cloth, that mask wherever you went, putting pressure on your respiratory system, you know, under the guise of protecting people, which was no evidence of whatsoever.
I'll go in a limb and I'll say that pretty much everything I called out in the spring, summer 2020 that was hardcore conspiracy theory has all been 100% emphatically vindicated. Everything, without exception.
Yeah, I think pretty much, every conspiracy of the last couple of years has come true. So I don't think they're classed as theories anymore. You've got to take theory out of it because it's all becoming true.
Nobody talks about it. I talk about it. And the thing is, you know, I'm on LinkedIn and I call some of this stuff out, but I'm not doing it to antagonize people. I'm truly doing it to test myself, because I want people with credentials and letters after their name to go after me and say, no, you're wrong and here's why. Because the strength of any belief or position is a function of its falsifiability. I can say to you right here and now that I will abandon my position and my beliefs if you can present me with evidence that says X, Y, and Z. I think that is a sign of the strength of an argument, not its weakness, because all of my positions are 100% falsifiable, and I'm happy for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree completely. That is, and that's one of the issues that a lot of people have when you talk to them about nutrition and stuff, is that they don't even actually listen to your side. They have these set things in their mind that they'll spout out, and they don't actually listen to what you say. It's not a discussion. It's just and as you say, if what you say is true, you fully believe it, and you have the facts to back it up, you have nothing to worry about with arguing with someone.
And that's the test for me, is I can adopt to the opposition side and argue their side better than they can. That's the test for me. Because I could say to them, I tell you what, let's switch over.
Yeah.
And I know their position and their rationale more intimately than they do.
Yeah. A lot of them just repeat what they hear on the TV, what they're told, in all walks of life, across all things. A lot of people, they have strong feelings about certain subjects and matters, but if you ask them about why, they couldn't really tell you why. They're just told it, and they accept it.
This is it, and I think this is the value in what I offer with my hypno fasting method. I think that not only are you adopting a new way of eating and living, you're essentially inoculating yourself. It's the ultimate vaccine for bullshit, because once you change your beliefs and values and your identity and start to eat and live in this way, you're literally inoculated against all the other crap that's out there.
Yeah. I hope you've got that slogan on your marketing. That's it.
Yeah, it is an inoculation of sorts.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I agree. I don't know, me and Barry have spoke about this a bit on the podcast about, critical thinking. Like, so many people have just lost the ability to think for themselves. And it's really sad to see. And as you said before, I know so many really intelligent people, and people who you would think were really strong-minded and kind of wouldn't take anything from anyone, who were just completely brainwashed so easily by it. And it kind of surprises you.
Yep.
Yeah, it certainly does. And again, you're talking about well-intentioned people and intelligent.
Absolutely. It's sad to see, but there's people like us, and hopefully the numbers growing, that are trying to help people and trying to get the message out there, and hopefully it's having some effect.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope that people, that look at what I'm doing. I'm selling one course. I'm not selling supplements. I'm not selling a program. I'm essentially selling a one-off magic bullet solution that will enable you to reclaim your health and give you complete autonomy over that for the rest of your life. It will put life in your years and years in your life. And I think that that's a much better thing to do than work for the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, very, very noble and honourable of you to,
Good to make some money as well.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got to live.
They do. Pharma pays well. It'd be nice to replace that salary and then some. But if you can do well by doing good, then
absolutely,
that's where I want to get to.
Adding value. That's what it's about.
Yeah, that's our aim as well, is to try and help people through what we're doing. That's the main goal. And as you say, you're looking to make some money along the way, because for you to be able to do it more and have it as a business full time, you've got to earn a living. And what people get in return is well worth the monetary value that they're going to exchange with you. That, getting their health and their life back is, I don't think you can put a price on health. So
no, I don't think so. And what I'm offering essentially is I help men over 40 reverse type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, without pills, diets, and doctors, through my unique method of combining intermittent fasting and hypnosis. That is my offer in a short sentence.
Yeah,
and if
awesome.
I can do that, and someone's paying me £1,000, they're paying it once, and oh boy, are they getting £1,000 worth of service.
Exactly. it's looking at the value of what they get, and it's 100% worth it. And if they think about all of the medication that they're not going to need in the future, you know, the quality of their life that's going to be improved, it's worth well beyond that in value.
Completely.
People need to look at it like that.
And it's not just an in-a-box solution. You know, I'll tailor it to people who have, you know, different sort of regimens, people that travel, people that work from home, people with different food intolerances, people with different religious beliefs. I think that Muslims are their own subset of their own, and that they fast and they do Ramadan. A lot of them struggle with it. A lot of them, you know, blows their mind when I tell them that I'm doing Ramadan on steroids, 365. And it's, you know, so there's a whole untapped market there, I think, you know, where they are doing it to because of the religious beliefs. They're doing it to have more focus, to have a singular devotion to their beliefs, and I think that I can help them do it a lot better.
Yeah, I think another other thing that shows that fasting as well is something that humans have always done is that pretty much all of the main religions incorporate fasting as well. So it's obviously something that's happened for thousands and thousands of years.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think without exception, they all saw the value of it and would claim to be closer to, you know, a singularity, a singular focus in doing that. But, you know, food eating is very expensive for the body, and it's very distracting. So, like you said, you coined it earlier, didn't you? Saying it's not intermittent fasting, it's intermittent feasting. I love that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to plug that into my course, and I'll give you some
absolutely. I stole it from someone else, so you're more than welcome.
Well, we're all a tapestry of other people's metaphors and stories, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. As long as we're all getting the message out, it's all good. Well, thank you for giving up your time this evening and coming and speaking to us. I've found it thoroughly interesting. I'm sure people watching will have too. So thank you very much for coming and sharing that. And as I especially loved hearing about the Hypno Fasting method, I'm really interested in that as well, how that works.
Yeah, and thank you for coining my new slogan as well. We've got intermittent feasting. I love that. Right? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. No, I've got a lot from it as well, guys. And I love the format. And the very best of luck to you as you continue your journey.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
A pleasure, brother. Thank you very much for coming on, and it'd be great to have you on again. I'm sure Ryan would agree.
Yeah, I'm building an online coaching version of Hypno Fasting Method just now, so I'm just kind of refining my offering. It will be an exceptional offer where someone will get all of my skills and capabilities essentially as an online course that will have access to me once or twice a week within a group setting where I can make these refinements, and you know, they can learn from other people that are on the journey. So that's my intention, and I hope that in 12 weeks, irrespective of where you're at when you enter the program, after that, you will not need to see or hear from me again. You will be completely self-sufficient, and you will have paved the way for a future of health and disease-free. That's my intention.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. We loved it. It's been our first family episode as well. So that's been good to have. It's been great. So thanks for coming on. Thanks again for being here, Barry. And we will see everyone again next week. And let's get optimal together. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or you'd like to appear on it, then please contact us at hwpoduk@gmail.com, on our website, which is healthwealthuk.com, or on any of our social medias, which are at hwpoduk. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share it with all your friends and family, and we will see you next week.